Today's lesson is Mackinac Island, the jewel of the Great Lakes. Hi everyone, I'm Mike.
And I'm Candice.
And we're going to visit the Great Lakes, or at least one of the Great Lakes. Of course, the Great Lakes is that very large body of water there in the middle of North America between Canada and the U.S. If you're in the Canadian province of Ontario or the American states of Michigan and Illinois and places like that, even over in New York, you are by the Great Lakes. And Lake Huron is one of the smaller of the Great Lakes. Lake Superior, of course, is the biggest, but all of the Great Lakes are absolutely beautiful. I know you're not from that part of the world, Candice, but have you ever had the opportunity to visit the Great Lakes?
No, I haven't, but my sister does live in Michigan, so she had the opportunity to visit the Great Lakes area.
Most definitely, yeah.
And there are lots and lots of recreational activities on the lake, both in summer and in winter. So she sent us a few pictures.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, camping, canoeing, fishing. Lots of people love to spend some time, especially in the summer, around the Great Lakes, which kind of explains why this place is called the jewel of the Great Lakes. When we describe something as being a jewel, it's precious, it's valuable, it's beautiful, it's one of the most special or amazing parts of the Great Lakes. And that's saying something because there's a lot of nice parts of the world in this area. So let's learn more about Mackinac Island. Notice that interesting pronunciation, the jewel of the Great Lakes, as we listen to the first part of our article. Mackinac Island, the jewel of the Great Lakes. Located on Lake Huron in Michigan, Mackinac Island will transport you back to quieter times. Historic streets, horse-drawn carriages, and stunning lake views make this tiny island the perfect getaway.
大家好，第一部分我们看到单字 stunning。这个字是形容词，指极美的、迷人的或是令人震惊的。举例来说 ，Annie looked stunning in her beautiful dress. Annie 穿上这件美丽的洋装，看起来极美无比。也可以说 ，The favorite team suffered a stunning defeat in the game. 那支被看好的队伍，令人震惊的在比赛中遭到挫败。
And we are back. So, Mackinac Island. We know it's in the Great Lakes, but what else can we learn about it? Well, let's read the first sentence and we'll find out exactly where in the world we are.
Right. The first sentence tells us immediately where we're going. It's located on Lake Huron in Michigan. Mackinac Island will transport you back to quieter times.
Is this like a time machine?
Sometimes we use the word transport in a non-literal way. So when we think about transport, I mean, immediately what comes to mind? Buses and trains and cars.
Transportation,
Yeah,
right?
different forms of transportation. So moving from one place to the next. In this case, we're moving back in time. Not literally, but just because the place looks like it comes from a different time.
Very, very interesting. Yeah, so it's kind of taking us back to quieter times, you know, times before highways and airplanes and cars and certainly cell phones beeping all around us all the time. So to give you an idea, we have a little description of some of the things you might find on Mackinac Island. Historic streets, horse-drawn carriages, and stunning lake views make this tiny island the perfect getaway. Wow, already I feel like I'm back in the 19th century or something like that. I should be wearing a top hat, and all the ladies will be wearing long gowns, long dresses.
And carrying parasols.
And carrying parasols, like you might see in a picture with Abraham Lincoln or something like that. Historic streets, so it's not just the street that's historic. Probably the buildings on the side of the street will be old, made of wood. You won't see a lot of tall glass skyscrapers and things like that. A feeling of long ago, and that feeling would be even more reinforced by the fact there maybe are few or no cars, horse-drawn carriages. Something that is horse-drawn, it means it's being pulled by a horse. All right, so a horse-drawn carriage, a horse-drawn wagon, something like that. Obviously from the time before cars became common, so that again is something that reminds us or makes us think or transports us back in time. And stunning lake views make this island a perfect getaway. Something stunning, it's really visually impressive. You look at it, your eyes get bigger and your brain goes, wow.
Yeah, and you kind of miss a breath because it's so beautiful. It kind of stuns you for a moment.
That's right. And of course, these days you'll pull out your picture and Instagram it right away.
Yeah.
That's what people will do. But we're getting the idea here. This is a wonderful place for a holiday, or as it's described there, a getaway. A getaway is kind of like a short holiday. Maybe like a weekend getaway. You might leave your home for 2-3 days, something like that. If you're traveling around Europe for a month, you probably would describe that as a holiday, not a getaway, which would give you the idea of something a little bit shorter. So already I like this place. I want to go. I want to see it. I'm going to go buy myself a top hat so I'm dressed really well. We're going to find out more about the interesting history of Mackinac Island in the second part of our article. Once a fur trading center, Mackinac Island became a popular summer vacation spot in the late 19th century. To accommodate the influx of visitors, the luxurious Grand Hotel was built. The stately white building features the world's longest porch at 200 meters long. Even if you don't stay at the Grand Hotel, it's a great place to stop by for afternoon tea or a relaxing afternoon on the porch.
第二部分我们看到名词 influx 表示流入、涌进或是汇集。例如 The newspaper columnists complained about the influx of immigrants into the country. 报纸专栏作家抱怨移民涌入该国。或是 Financial experts declared that the recent influx of migrants could boost economies. 金融专家宣称，最近涌入的移民可能可以提振经济。接着我们看到单字 stately， 这个字是形容词，指宏伟的、庄严或是隆重的。举例来说 ，The stately home is a popular tourist attraction. 这座宏伟的宅邸是个热门的观光景点。或是 The Queen of England's birthday is usually a stately affair. 英国女王的生日通常是一件隆重的事情。
So, Mackinac Island, we know now it's kind of old-fashioned with these historic streets and horse-drawn carriages, but how did it all start? What is the real history of the place? Well, it says once a fur trading center, Mackinac Island became a popular summer vacation spot in the late 19th century. So, like a lot of those places around the Great Lakes, it was a fur trading center. Both the British and the French who first settled in North America came there to get the fur, specifically beaver, that they used to make hats and other things with. So, of course, they would go out, trap the animals, take the fur, and that would all be shipped off to Europe eventually. And this is the place where the explorers were going out there to find the fur, to trap the fur and bring it back, and then they would sell it in a fur trading center. That's basically where they would sell the things that they'd been hunting. And so that's how Mackinac Island became important. And then it became a popular summer vacation spot in the late 19th century. So this is the kind of feeling we would probably get from the place today.
Yeah, today fur trading is not quite as acceptable as it was in the 19th century.
And not so necessary, too.
And so back then, we probably wouldn't have had anybody opposing killing the animals for the fur. But the important part of this sentence is that because of its status as a fur trading center, lots of people went there. And so in the summer vacations, it became a popular vacation spot. And so to accommodate the influx of visitors, the luxurious Grand Hotel was built. So obviously a lot of people came if it inspired the building of a new hotel, because they needed places for these people to sleep and to stay. And so to accommodate them or to keep up with the increase in visitors or all the visitors coming in, they built a brand new luxurious hotel, which was the Grand Hotel. So here, influx just mean a high number of people coming in. And of course, the architecture of the building is of that time, of the 19th century.
Absolutely. I'm looking at a picture of the Grand Hotel. It is well named. It is very grand, and it is clearly luxurious. It's the kind of place you would imagine the Rockefellers staying in 100 years ago, or the Carnegies, or something like that. So that's very, very impressive. I guess you can still stay there today. As it says, the stately white building features the world's longest porch at 200 meters long. A lovely porch. I'm sure it overlooks the lake. You can sit out there and enjoy a nice drink in the evening hours as you watch the sunset or something like that. When we call something stately, it's kind of like calling it grand. It's very impressive. It's kind of high class. You can imagine rich people or even lords, princes, kings, and queens staying there. It gives you the feeling of something from long ago, something that's been impressive and been high class for generations and generations. And a porch is sort of like a floor outside of a building, usually on the first floor. If it's above the ground, we might call it a balcony, but a porch will be covered. It will be attached to the front of the house or the back, probably covered, and an area you can sit outside in the days before air conditioning and things like that. This was a place people could sit out, get a bit of a breeze, and enjoy being outside, but not quite under the hot sun. That kind of idea. So many buildings in this part of the world, even small homes, might have a porch out front, but not a porch that's 200 meters long. That's almost ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a long, long porch. If you think about a porch, certainly you can think about it as a kind of balcony on the first floor on the ground level.
Yeah.
In some places, they even refer to the porch as a stoop. So if you hear the word stoop or porch, sometimes they're used interchangeably. And, often, especially in hot places or where the summer is pretty hot, a lot of people will gather on the porch, as you say, for a cool drink, maybe a cool drink of lemonade, and just enjoy the cool breeze at night.
There you go. You're basically describing the final sentence of this paragraph. Even if you don't stay there, it's a great place to stop by for afternoon tea or a relaxing afternoon on the porch. It sounds absolutely lovely. I think I'll have to dress up a little bit and put on my nicest clothes to go and have tea at the Grand Hotel. You're all invited to join me. All right, that's the second paragraph of our article. Let's pause here and listen to the third part and find out about some of the things we can do when we're not whiling away the afternoon hours on the porch. Cars are banned on the island, so you'll have to get around by horse, by bicycle, or on foot. A horse-drawn carriage ride is the perfect way to explore the island in comfort. Head downtown for great food, art galleries, and historic buildings. Be sure to try some of the island's famous fudge, which is still made using traditional methods and marble slabs. Also downtown is the Biddle House, a historic home which features exhibits about the island's fur trade and indigenous people. Pop over to the Benjamin Blacksmith shop next door to see a real blacksmith in action.
第三部分我们看到名词 exhibit， 表示展品、陈列品或是展览。例如 The museum has dozens of new exhibits. 这间博物馆有数十件新展品。也可以说 I saw a great exhibit about a French artist at the museum this weekend. 我这周末在博物馆看了一位法国艺术家的精彩展览。另外，这个字也可以当作动词，指展出、展示或是显示。像是 The artist is exhibiting her work in a rented space next to her apartment. 那位艺术家在他公寓旁一个租来的空间展示他的作品。或是 The company is exhibiting signs of steady growth. 这间公司露出稳定成长的迹象。最后我们看到单字 indigenous， 这个字是形容词，指土生土长的或是本土的。我们可以说 Taiwan is home to several indigenous tribes. 台湾有好几个土生土长的部族。或是 Kangaroos are indigenous to Australia and nowhere else on the planet. 袋鼠原产于澳大利亚，在地球上其他任何地方都没有。
All right, we are back. Now, remember those historic streets, those horse-drawn carriages we mentioned? And I said you'd probably not see many cars. Well, it seems I was right. In fact, you might not see any cars at all. It says cars are banned on the island. So you'll have to get around by horse, by bicycle, or on foot. That's right, no taxis, no Uber, no bus service, no cars, no motorized vehicles, I assume. So how do you get around? Well, by horse, by bicycle, or on foot, as people probably did around 100 years ago. To get around is just to travel, to go to different places. Sounds nice.
Yeah, getting from point A to point B sounds a lot more interesting by horse or by bicycle. I imagine that the island isn't that big either, so the distances wouldn't be that great.
Yeah, it was described as tiny up at the top. So yeah, you're exactly right about that one.
Yeah, so it would be easy to get to places and wouldn't take too long by horse or by bicycle. Suppose using horse for deliveries or when you have to transport bigger things, and of course bicycles for individuals. It's also a really nice way to just relax and unwind by riding a bicycle.
For sure. And people on holiday do like those carriage rides. As it says, a horse-drawn carriage ride is the perfect way to explore the island in comfort. As long as you're not in a hurry, you can sit in the horse-drawn carriage, enjoy the sights and sounds, and possibly the smells from the horse too. But that's all about transporting you back to quieter times. And once you've taken a tour and taken in a lot of the stunning views from the different parts of Mackinac Island, you might be getting a little hungry or in the mood for something a little more cultural. So, as we read next, head downtown for great food, art galleries, and historic buildings. Lots of things to see and do on Mackinac Island. And what are some of the things that we might want to be trying out to eat there?
Yeah, it gives us some examples of things that we might want to see and do. So it says, be sure to try some of the island's famous fudge, which is still made using traditional methods, and marble slabs.
Wow, I love fudge, but not as much as I love famous fudge. That's the best fudge.
What is fudge? Fudge is basically a combination of milk and a high concentration of sugar over heat, which you stir for a while, and then you usually refrigerate it so it can set, and then you can cut it up into little blocks. It's usually considered caramel. When you melt the sugar, it becomes caramelized.
Oh, okay.
Right, so it's quite a sweet treat.
Yeah, very often when we have a brownie, right? Brownies are kind of fudge. A bit more of a cake, but it's not quite cake. It's like half fudge, half cake. Very rich, very sweet. Be sure to brush your teeth after having some fudge. And don't leave it out when it's hot, right? Fudge doesn't do well in hot heat. So you definitely want to keep your fudge in the fridge.
Yeah.
Fridge fudge is better than hot fudge.
And it's still made according to traditional methods. So if any of you have ever had some ice cream at Cold Stone, you may have seen the marble slab that they used. Right? Marble is quite an expensive stone usually. You have to mine it. You have to get it out of the mountain. But it's usually quite cool to the touch. It's very heavy. You get different kinds of marble. But marble slabs are used in construction, in buildings quite often for floors. They'll be used for floors. Maybe it will be used to create some pillars. But in this case, the marble slabs are useful because they can maintain a nice cold temperature.
I see.
And
so you can work the fudge but not have it melt and stuff and
That's
get all
right,
messy.
because we don't want to leave the fudge out because it doesn't do well in warmer temperatures.
Cool. And of course, these days they probably would have some kind of special refrigerated counter with steel you could use. But no, they're doing it in the old way, the traditional method with these marble slabs. And also something you'd want to check out to work off all that famous fudge you just ate. You want to go and check out Biddle House. It says also downtown is the Biddle House, a historic home which features exhibits about the island's fur trade and indigenous people. So this will give you some real facts about Mackinac Island and its history. You'll obviously be able to see lots of photographs and maybe different things, these exhibits. An exhibit is something we see in a museum. It's probably an organized display. It will have pictures. It will have objects. It will have labels showing you things, and it's basically there to educate people. It could be an art exhibit. It could be a historical exhibit. It could be an exhibit of any kind. But, you know, if you're in a museum or a gallery or places like that, and there's a show and they're talking about a certain topic to let the public know more about it, that is presented as an exhibit. Of course, we'll look at the history of the island, including two of the most important things that come from the past, right?
Yeah, to add to that, if you go to a natural history museum, a common exhibit would be dinosaur bones, for example. Or if you went to another museum, maybe an exhibit would be a collection of antique vases. So you can have different kinds of exhibits to showcase a period of time or a specific topic.
That's right. In this period of time, this exhibit would look at the fur trade, trading, trapping, selling fur. So they would have the equipment, pictures, probably some samples of some of the objects made from this fur, and also things about the indigenous people, because Mackinaw is a word from the native language of the tribe that lived there, and that's what indigenous people are. They're native people, people who lived there for a very long time, back thousands and thousands of years. When we think of the Aborigines in Australia, when we think of the Aborigines here in Taiwan, in America they might be called native people. In Canada we call them First Nations people. The old term would have been Indian people, but now indigenous is the best term to use for people all over the world, different tribes, different cultures who've lived in those lands for millions and millions, well, thousands and thousands of years, if not millions of years. Anyways, and then after you do that, you can pop over to the Benjamin Blacksmith shop next door to see a real blacksmith in action. Wow, pounding hot iron in a hot, what do we call where a blacksmith works?
A forge.
A forge, thank you, on an anvil, maybe making horseshoes, and these days probably making some cool artistic things that tourists can buy. Someone who works metal in that old way by heating it and hitting it with hammers, and those people who make swords in the old movies and stuff like that. You can pop over, spend a few minutes over there, check out the blacksmith in action. So they're actually going to be working the steel, working the metal as you watch. That's all the time we have for today, so let's go and listen to the Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第二部分有一句写到，为了提供大量涌入的旅客住宿而新建了豪华的 Grand Hotel。 那文中用到 accommodate 来表达为什么来提供住宿。我们来学它的字首字根。首先看到 MOD 或者是 MODE 这一类字根呢，它有度量、衡量或者是方式的意思。那么在 accommodate 这个字当中，它的字首 AC 是来自 AD 表示朝向，那么 COM 表示彻底或者是做强调用，而字根 MOD 则有衡量度量的意思，后面再接上 ATE 是动词字尾。好，那同学们可以试着联想，当你对着这个目标对象、目标客群去彻底衡量出精确的因应方式，那么也许就可以去联想到这个 accommodate 有适应顺应、迎合的意思。那么在旅馆规划住房的时候，他们也要迎合顾客需求嘛，或者是场地要规划容纳人数的时候，也必须经过精密的衡量，这样也许可以联想到 accommodate 它有容纳为什么提供空间、提供住宿的意思。好，顺便补充两个这一类字根的单字，第一个是 moderate，它的字根 MODE 表示衡量，那么 ATE 是形容词字尾。当某事物的数量是有经过衡量，不会太多也不会太少，那就表示它是适量的。用这个方式应该可以联想到 moderate， 它可以描述适度的、适中的、节制的或者是温和的。第二个补充的是 modify， 它的字根 MOD 表示度量， IFY 是动词字尾。当我们把某事物控制在度量的范围内，适度调整，不要让它超过测量范围，用这样的方式也许可以联想到 modify 它有调整、修改的意思。好，那读到课文第三部分第一句，岛上是禁止汽车进入的，所以你四处移动时得乘坐马车、骑自行车或者是步行。文中是用 get around 来表达四处移动。那我们来整理一下 get around 的不同用法。第一个可以用 get around 来表达四处走走、到处旅行，那它可以当及物用法或者是不及物用法。举例来说， It's convenient to get around the city by tram， 搭有轨电车在那个城市里面四处移动很方便。 有一些城市他们在市区街道，你就可以看到地上是有轨道，然后有这种电车，这种 tram 可以行经城市里的各个地方，是很方便的。好，那么再看到第二个呢，我们可以把 get around 来做及物用的话， get around something 可以表达解决或者是回避某事发生，像是 they found a loophole to get around the rules， 他们找到漏洞来回避那些规定。那么 loophole 就是漏洞，像是法律漏洞的那一种。好，再看到下一个呢 get around to 再加名词或动名词，则是指找到时间或机会去做某事，这通常是某一件早就想做却没时间或没机会做的事。例如 I've been meaning to visit them, but I just haven't gotten around to it。 我一直都有打算要去拜访他们，但就是没找到时间去做这件事情。好，那么以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天的单字吧。
Transport. The spaghetti was so delicious that she felt like she'd been transported to Italy. Accommodate. The cabin can accommodate 5 people comfortably. Porch. The old house had a small porch with a pair of rusty metal chairs. Exhibit. Melinda found the exhibit of the famous author's notebooks fascinating. Indigenous. The snow monkey is indigenous to many parts of Japan.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Mike.
I'm Candice.
See you next time.